turn everybody on. It helps very, very good to turn everybody on and say hello to everybody. And
hello.
there for a minute, we were always just going to be we were just going to be a podcast without any kind of video to go with it. But we're with Jack Lord, Rodney West. Did y'all enjoy reviewing World Championship Wrestling April 6, 1985?
Very much so.
It was an honor. And the comparison between it and Raw, no comparison.
Well, let me give a little back. Let me give a little back history just for a second on what happened. On Saturday, March 30th, Championship Wrestling for Georgia came on the air as usual, except this time it was Tony Schiavone and not Gordon Solie opening the program with Ole Anderson. And it quickly became apparent to viewers that something was different. Along with a few of the Georgia regulars, Thunderbolt Patterson, Tommy Rich, Bud Sawyer, there were many of the stars from Jim Crockett Promotions, Magnum TA, Dusty Rhodes, Jimmy Valiant, Tully Blanchard, The Barbarian, Paul Jones, and others was on this program. The next week, and this is the program that we reviewed, April 6, 1985, Crockett Promotions debuted on the Saturday and Sunday evening time slots. That same Saturday morning, the final airing of Championship Wrestling for Georgia took place, and the following week, a Crockett show entitled Championship Wrestling aired in its place. Turner honored his original agreement with Bill Watts and Mid-South Wrestling show. It continued to air for the duration of their original 3-month contract. The final Mid-South show on WTBS aired on May 26, 1985. Watts went above and beyond the call and told viewers that they should embrace the new Crockett program and thank viewers for watching the show, which, by the way, was a very, very ratings winner. Tremendous ratings. Mid-South Wrestling had tremendous ratings. I believe it was on the Sunday time slot. Now, it started with Vince McMahon, which really WWF had some horrible television programs.
That was to keep with the trend that they currently have. Thank you.
They were very, very bad, by the way, folks. Very, very bad. And when they came in, the first television I thought was such an improvement. And it opened up with, I guess they were showing the Championship Wrestling from Georgia stuff, and Ole Anderson. That was classic Ole Anderson in that. Didn't y'all think so?
Yep.
That was intense.
Yeah.
Ole was absolutely perfection in that. Just perfection. And the thing about it is, if you go back with what he did in the Carolinas before, this is typical Ole Anderson. What we're beginning to see. And that's what they're doing. They're getting Ole back to the way he was when he was in the Carolinas. Mid-Atlantic.
Well, they opened the program with that. Ole telling Thunderbolt Patterson, remember this, the next time I see you, you will not be safe. That was Ole Anderson's words to Thunderbolt Patterson at the beginning of this, what they used to call back then a hot opening. It was the old hot opening to show the people what was going on. Then we open up to Tony Schiavone and David Crockett.
Tony was fantastic. It was a breath of fresh air. If anybody, honestly, that could pick up the mantle from Gordon, not to say that Gordon can be replaced, but if anybody could pick up the mantle for Gordon Solie, Tony Schiavone stepped right into position. He was absolutely perfect and absolutely making sure they got all the taglines. The NWA, the Major League of Professional Wrestling, and making sure. And Crockett, Jimmy Crockett, he pushed the national wrestling lots. Even when Ole had it, they were not focusing on the NWA as much, but Crockett promoted it. I mean, certainly promoted it from day one and made sure the national wrestling lights was prevalent, and you could tell it that this was the NWA. I loved it. And then was David Crockett.
It's my David Crockett appreciation shirt.
Watch it.
I kid David. We love David, but we like to kid him.
We love to kid you, David.
We love just like we do with Joel Watts and Bill Watts. We kid them too.
Well, the show opened up with Ivan and Nikita Koloff against George South and Greg Stone.
Greg Stone. I missed his name.
Greg Stone.
I saw him a lot on the mat. I never did see his face.
Jack, what did you think of Nikita Koloff? This man, when I went back to look, I couldn't believe how impressive he was.
He was great. And, he was, he got his start with Mid-Atlantic, and he improved so quickly. But he was in there from the get-go with some of the best in the business. So it was either he was going to learn and be great or he was going to be gone. And he learned, and he was fantastic.
That Russian sickle, and I believe it was on George South, wasn't it?
I believe so.
I think it was George South. That when he gave that Russian sickle to George South, man, it looked so good, like he just ripped his head right off of him. And that 1, 2, 3, and that instantly got Nikita Koloff over by even being with Ivan Koloff on that particular show. But it was a good, solid match for a first match. And Nikita and Ivan was beating old poor old George South and old Greg, which Greg Stone wasn't in there a lot, I noticed. But does anybody remember Greg Stone? Did he ever go on to be? We remember George South.
That's the only time I remember ever seeing him.
Well, maybe he was afraid he's going to get that Russian sickle. Then the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, joins, and he goes over there, tells everybody about his expensive robes and his Rhodes, the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, and they wish they were him, and they couldn't be him because he was the Nature Boy.
And Atlanta was starved for the sight of a real man. They had been missing a champion, and he was apologizing to Atlanta because he hadn't been there in a while. But now he's back, and he's wants to let them know.
Jack, that interview wasn't written. What did you think about the interview, Ric Flair?
I felt it, and that's the difference between what was and what is now. Is back then, those guys understood their characters. They understood what needed to be said. They weren't given specifics of how to say it and when to say it and all the words. They gave them, a bullet point, and they went out and they all nailed what they had to nail, or else you didn't get on TV. And nobody was better. If you watch this program, nobody was better than Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes on this show. Everybody was great, but those guys made you want to buy a ticket.
Yep.
Yeah. Exactly.
Then, Rodney, tell the people the next match with Jimmy Valiant and Mark Hill.
Yeah. I know what. I think basically this is almost the first appearance, really. I think, he might have been on the Championship Wrestling from Georgia show. But here comes Jimmy Valiant, the Boogie Woogie Man. And, they had done some big business with Jimmy Valiant in the Mid-Atlantic before Dusty got there. He started in with Mark Hill. It was all Jimmy Valiant. Comes up with the elbow and then a crashing elbow smash on the man. It's 1, 2, 3. It's the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant. I enjoyed his interview later on in the show as well.
The commentary was spectacular in this. They were able to explain Paul Jones, and the reason Jimmy Valiant was slamming him into the post and he was so mad is because Paul Jones had done all this stuff to him, and he was mad at the what was Paul Jones? Was it called the Army? Paul Jones's Army?
Yeah,
he was number one, Paul Jones. Yes,
and with his Army, and they told that story, and it made sense of why he was doing what he was doing in the ring. Because if you was watching, his first time he was watching, and that would have been, you'd kind of wondered, okay, is Jimmy Valiant a good guy or a bad guy? Because he was. Yeah. He was doing a lot of bad things but they explained it, and it was done so well. All right, Jack. Next match, Tully Blanchard against Sam Houston. I know you had to enjoy that.
I did enjoy that. I know Sam. Sam's a great guy. And Tully, I always thought Tully could have been world champion at some point too. I mean, he had the ability. He could talk. He could walk. He had the look. Man, I love Tully. I love that finish. I saw some people talking the other day online about how that wasn't a devastating finish. Well, it was, because he always won with it. So it must have been pretty good. Yeah, I love this match. Love this match.
That match to me was a solid wrestling match. See, what was so good about it is Tully gave him just enough. He knew that Sam Houston was only going to be used in a certain level, so he gave him just enough to look like he beat somebody, but he didn't make him look bad. So when he went against Dusty Rhodes or went against Magnum TA, it didn't make him look so bad. He just gave him enough. Rodney, did you like this match?
I loved it, and I loved Dusty's commentary at the desk. He was not only just talking about Tully, Sam Houston, but he was also talking about Baby Doll. These perfect zero, as he calls her. The perfect zero.
Perfect zero.
The perfect zero, if you will. I'm the NWA TV champion. I took it away from Tully Blanchard. I loved it.
Well, then the big Dusty Rhodes, does his interview. And he says, let me tell you something. You bring all these girls out here. Well, let me tell you something, Ric Flair. I want some cowgirls. That's what I want. Go and get some cowgirls out here. And I'm going to tell you something, Ric Flair. They don't all like him with the big nose like you got. Tremendous.
I love that.
Tremendous interview by Dusty Rhodes, and I loved it. I watched that interview about 5 times. I just thought it was tremendous. I remember that interview. When I listened to it, I remembered it like it was yesterday. I just remember him doing that interview. And then superstar Billy Graham against Rocky King with Paul Jones. It was what it was. Billy Graham was not the Billy Graham of years ago, but he still did put a whipping on Rocky King during this match.
Yeah, that is referred as the gimmick that shall not be mentioned.
Yeah, I agree. Once he got out of the karate back and he put, he bleached his, the goatee, and he became Billy Graham again and went back to the tie dye stuff.
When he was full blown superstar, he was tremendous. I don't care if he was limited. That was his gimmick. He owned it, and nobody did it better.
Yeah. I don't know if you've noticed the commentary in this, but did David Crockett say Arn Anderson or Ern Anderson?
I think it was Arn. Arn or something.
Ern. I thought it was Ern Anderson. I might have mistaken that.
Arn Anderson couldn't be here today. Love you, David. We're just playing with you, David.
We're Southern. Just go ahead and deal with it, man.
That's right.
Go ahead.
I wonder why he had a problem with Arn.
It was different at different times, and it might have been somebody yelling in his ears.
I don't think they did that back then. So somebody put them headsets down and said, "You yell at my ear one more time, we're gonna have some."
Well, I mean, they had to know when they throw it to break and stuff. I mean, I guess they had the full director, but okay, well, all right.
But it was a good match. It was a good match. It got him over. It did what it was supposed to do. And then they played a Magnum TA video for Mid-South Wrestling.
They sure did. That's the first thing I know is they said, I've seen that. We've reviewed that on Mid-South Wrestling several times.
And then Freebird Michael Hayes, Bad Street, USA. I love when he said, I don't know what the nature boy he is. Is that somebody that runs naked through the woods? Again, not written for him. And then the interview, I believe what was going on, Michael Hayes was going to meet Ric Flair at the Omni. And that was the match. And they were just doing an interview. And
I loved that Flair was standing in the ring and they were looking they were like looking at each other. And Flair didn't say anything. And he did it the proper way. He didn't say anything. He just stood there and let him do his thing. And they shot him. And then, of course, Flair in the beautiful robe and Olivia Walker original right there. Just beautiful. Beautiful.
Now, I have to say something before we go on. When Dusty's interview, when he told him, he said, if Baby Da is a perfect 10, then I want to have a date with you, Tony Schiavone.
Yeah.
I thought I'd pick that up. All right, then, NWA World Champion, Jack. Ric Flair goes against Gene Ligon. I believe might have been one of the Thunderfoots. Am I correct about that?
I believe so. Yep.
What did you think about the match?
I thought it was great. You could tell that Ric Flair was very comfortable in there with him. Gene was one of those guys you don't hear a lot about except inside the industry, but he was a journeyman. He could work with anybody. And I thought, the match showed why Ric Flair was the world champion. It was just great.
Did you see one time in the match? I think Flair had called for maybe a backdrop out of the corner, and he didn't go down to make it, and they just met each other. But the way they took care of it when they just grabbed the heat and just tremendous, they were able. That's why Ric Flair was the world heavyweight champion, because he knew how to make it look good. All right, Rodney. Yep. Next, your favorite interview with Jimmy Valiant.
Jimmy Valiant gives Tony the big smooch, and Tony's doing this. He's trying not to, but he's just kind of behind him, kind of giving it that bit right there. Yeah, he was great. He talked about all of his old ladies, but his favorite one was his axe handle. And he had it especially for Paul Jones. Apparently he broke his arm with that axe handle is what I'm assuming. We didn't get to see the video. I think they show it in a few weeks. But, well, maybe they didn't show it because they used the axe handle. Can't do that on TBS. But anyway, so yeah, he talked about all of his old ladies, and it was all energy. He was getting stutter. It was perfect from beginning to end. He's never stops. He never stops. And then, like I said, Tony, he ends it just perfect. Yeah, the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant, will be back.
What people don't understand, Jimmy Valiant was over.
Yes, he was.
I went in 1984. I was stationed right outside of Savannah, Georgia, at Fort Stewart, and I believe it was Jasper, Georgia, is not far from there. And they had a B show, which was headlined by Jimmy Valiant, and I went. And I'm telling you, there was probably 700-800 people in this building. I mean, not the biggest crowd that they're used to performing in front of, but Jimmy Valiant came out like a ball of fire. Everything that you hoped Jimmy Valiant would have been in a 20,000 seat arena, he did in front of those 800 or so people. I mean, he had that building rocking. He alone was worth the price of admission. Always loved to see Jimmy.
Now, did they do the old deal where he got beat down, and they put the Boy in New York City music on?
Yep.
Always did well.
The only music on the whole show was that right there.
Jimmy Valiant, the Boogie Woogie Man. All right. Now the old dastardly Ole Anderson. They re-show the whole thing with Ole again. That, you know what? If there's going to be an interview school in professional wrestling, they should take every interview that Ole Anderson ever did and said, "This is the way you do an interview," because he made me believe that that Arn Anderson was going to be his ticket to the future. And that Thunderbolt, he had no use for him no more. And Thunderbolt was great. Thunderbolt said, "They told me you would do this." Well, maybe they did. Maybe you should have listened. That's what Ole told. It was just, if you have not seen that interview, go and look for this. April, I think you put April 6, 1985 World Championship Wrestling. I think that comes up, and watch the interview with Ole Anderson. I don't think there's anything better.
Yeah.
And Thunderbolt was great as well, because Thunderbolt put that thing over so well, and just that hurt stuff on Thunderbolt, it was great. All right, then, Jack, Manny Fernandez and Arn Anderson.
I believe it was Arn. I think it's Arn.
Jack, what did you think about the match?
I thought it was a great match. I never saw Manny have a bad match. I mean, he got a push. He was another one of those guys that had great skills. He could have been a top level guy, but man, he was solid in every position he was in. This was a great match, and told a great story, especially there at the end with Ole. I mean, it was tremendous.
Yeah.
What it was great is Arn worked the knee. They do some spots, he go right back to the knee. They do some spots, he go right back to the knee, over and over again. Then finally, when the thing that stood out to me, Manny had him and had his knee working on it, and Arn comes up to grab a hold of him, and I mean, Manny gives a chop to him, and you can tell Arn was thinking, "I'm not getting back up for another one of those." You can say, "I'm not going back for another one of those." That thing was pretty hard. Rodney, run that down. Everything that happened at as Arn knocks Manny Fernandez out of the ring.
Well, Ole has already come up to the ring by this time. He's telling him to get on him. Finally, it's Manny being knocked out of the ring, then Ole gets. Then they jump on him, and they're outside of the ring, and they're jumping on him, and then here comes Thunderbolt Patterson. Thunderbolt grabs Arn. They're going into the ring. Ole's just kind of standing there. He's wondering if he's
I love that.
Finally, he goes in. He grabs Thunderbolt, and then they do the number on Thunderbolt. Ole goes on the top rope, comes off, and stops. And that stomp to that leg looked like it went all the way through. Went for a second when Manny Fernandez in for the rescue, but Ole comes down on the back of his on his back, and and then everybody comes in, and Ole and Arn, they leave.
And who made the save? Pistol Paz Watley was one of the people that made the save, and I'm not for sure who Magnum TA and who was the other
Magnum. I don't remember.
Up there. Yeah,
I don't remember who the other guy was, but
I didn't know who he
Maggie.
Was. Oh, Magnum TA. Then the Koloffs. Let me tell you something.
I loved Ivan Koloff.
Yeah.
He was on fire. He said, "It was good to see my partner." Well, that's the first thing Tony said. A former partner of yours, Ivan. And it was great to see my partner, Ole Anderson. Finally, he's coming back. Very reminiscent of the after the cage thing. Ivan was great. Nikita finally kicks in there right at the end. Just beautiful.
Now Nikita Koloff, he did mention the Road Warriors during this, right?
Yes, he did.
And by the way, Road Warrior Animal passed away. I think it was yesterday or the day before.
The day before yesterday.
Just a very sad situation, only 60 years old. And it's just a sad situation. But I'm pretty sure we'll be talking about the Road Warriors coming up as we continue talking about Jim Crockett Promotions and World Championship Wrestling on TBS. After that, Ric Flair comes back and does another great interview with a couple of women. This time, tells how much he is the kiss-stealing, Will and Dylan, whatever he said during this whole interview. And, something I forgot to say that I thought was great. When Ric Flair went to put whoever he wrestled against, I don't remember. But when he went
Gene Liggett, when he went to put the figure four look, and he said, "Now we go to school." I forgot that he used to do that, and the people always popped on that. That was there. But the Flair interview was still good. That was still a great interview, not written for him, but it told about Ric Flair and who Ric Flair was.
That's because Ric Flair knows who he is. Those guys that's on the other shows that we're watching now, they don't know who they are. They are what's on that card. And if you're Retribution on what's on the cue card, make sure to read every word.
Then, U.S. heavyweight champion. I believe he was the U.S. champion. Magnum TA against Paul Barnett. Now, Paul Barnett I've seen several times throughout the years. Here is one spectacular 20-second match. But that's what they were doing with Magnum TA during this time. They're kind of redoing them, repackaging them the way they did someone else years ago, and I can't remember who that was, but Dusty did somebody else that way.
Yeah, they were talking about how he was winning his matches quicker than anybody. I think, David Crockett may have said fastest as anybody in history consistently, So, yeah, they were doing it. And Footer, which is what we all call Paul, Footer did great in here, I thought.
Yes, he did. He put him over, did what he did. Then Tully Blanchard goes searching for his perfect 10. And he ends up with what Dusty says is the perfect zero.
That's right. He calls her other stuff later.
Yeah, he did. It was a good little video. Didn't y'all think so?
Yeah, I thought so.
It told the story. It told us, who he's trying to find, and I enjoyed it. Then the Barbarian with Paul Jones against Joshua Stroud. A diving headbutt off the top rope. He beats him in short order.
Yeah.
Barbarian looked great.
Yep.
I mean, he looked like $1 million, and he looked like somebody that could kick your tail.
Yeah, I think he could.
Probably could.
I think legitimately good. And I think we already told about the Dusty Rhodes. And
this one, Dusty, we must review.
Oh, okay.
Because he talks about Ole Anderson. He said it wasn't long ago when he jumped me in the parking lot.
Just a couple of years ago.
Jumped me in the parking lot. And you know why he talked about the parking lot? Because that drew bunches of money in Atlanta. It drew, but more so than the cage match. This was the year. This was 78. This was huge. I mean, it was huge. Sold out 17,000 plus at the Omni, sitting on the steps. He got the payoff. He knew how it worked. I mean, he was on the main event. Him and Bill Watts against Ole Anderson, Ivan Koloff. It was something. And I noticed he had to get it in. He had to get it. Not the cage. He didn't get the cage thing in, but he got this one in because I think he already had planned another cage thing. He didn't want to.
Well, I had thought he had done it in the first interview, but it was the second interview when he talked about the big old nose. They like him with the big old nose like you've got. Yeah. And then Tully Blanchard comes out. What did you think about the interview, Jack? Tully Blanchard with Baby Doll.
It was low-keyed, to the point, and you took him serious. And you know, Tully was from the, you know, Bill Eadie's always said that, you know, if everybody else is yelling, you tone it down and talk where everybody has to pay attention to what you're saying. And Tully's a master of that. It's a great interview.
Oh yeah, it was. And then Buddy Landale, the other Nature Boy, was J.J. Dillon and went against David Dillinger. I didn't think it was one of Buddy's better matches he's ever had. And I think it might have had a little bit of that David Dillinger was a big old dude.
Yeah, it's a little awkward.
It was a little awkward in that match. But Buddy got done what he was supposed to do. Yep. He got himself over in the match. He did his elbow and done the figure four leg lock. That's what he was supposed to do to get ready to go against Ric Flair and some of the shows. What did y'all think about the match?
As I say, I thought it was a little awkward. It wasn't on Buddy's part. But you know, it told the story. You know, and even Buddy's worst matches are still better than most people's best matches.
This is true. All right, Rodney. James J. Dillon was next.
Yeah, that's right. But my one comment about this one thing: Buddy was not comfortable with the woos and doing the Ric Flair stuff. He was comfortable being Buddy Landale. I think that was the problem in there. All right, James J. Dillon, along with Black Bart, Dillon was on fire. He was on fire, class personified. And out there talking about how he and Paul Jones have got a partnership. We're not going to be against each other. Paul Jones has told me what's all going on in here. Of course, I think he's already people's already seen him. I think at that point, Black Bart's the Mid-Atlantic champion, is he not, at this point?
I believe so.
But they don't recognize the Mid-Atlantic title on World Championship Wrestling. They do it on the other shows, but not on this one. Yeah, it was perfect. And he talked about Buddy Landale and Ron Bass and his whole entourage. And then, of course, Black Bart goes in the ring against Ron Rossi, I believe it was his name.
Also now, James J. Dillon, I'm looking for a talent. I'm on a talent search, and I've been all over the globe to find the greatest wrestlers of all time to be in my – I don't know what he wasn't a stable. What was his did he call it the stable?
I can't remember what he called it.
I guess he did call it the stable. Then Ole and Arn Anderson come out and do an interview.
Oh, you got that Black Bart busting the ring.
Oh, about Ronnie Rossi. Yeah,
he broke the ring. They broke the ring in this one.
You know, I missed that.
They broke the second. Normally, Black Bart goes to the second rope with the leg drop from the second rope. The Texas trash compactor. Well, he trash compacted from the mat. He didn't go up on the second rope because the second rope broke. He broke the ring. He broke the ring.
It was a good cover, though. He never stopped.
No.
He just kept going. Like, he didn't care. I'm going to beat this guy up.
Right.
And if you know Bart, that's the way he was. Great guy.
Then Ole and Arn Anderson come out and do their interview. Great interview. Once again, just a tremendous interview. And Ole saying, I told you, I warned you, and I'll warn you again. When you get in the ring with the Andersons, you're going to be beat. You're going to get hurt. Just tremendous interview.
I love the pronouncement of this is the Minnesota Wrecking Crew.
Yeah.
I love the announcement that they were back.
Then there, Jimmy Valiant. Life's been good to me. Great little video on him and got him over, and that's what they wanted to do. And then they closed with Dusty Rhodes, telling everybody that he was the NWA television champion.
They only have the finest crystal and the best limousines.
You got the deal with the dealer, baby. You got the deal with the dealer. Great show, guys. April 6, 1985, World Championship Wrestling, 605 to 805. Tremendous. Don't y'all? That was a great.
Some of the best wrestling ever.
Yes.
Period. And the whole existence of professional wrestling. And we love old school here, but that era was tremendously great.
Every segment a star. Every segment a star.
Now, folks, this episode and this program will be on Tuesday nights. It will start on Tuesday nights. So we want you to join us on a Tuesday night. This Tuesday, we'll look at April, I think it'd be 13th, wouldn't it? 1985. So join us for that on Tuesday nights. Our look at NWA Wrestling, World Championship Wrestling on TBS in 1985. Guys, are you ready? We've got 62 comments ready.
Well, let's get to it.
Let's see what everybody has to say. Mickey Mayfield said, one of my favorite episodes. Ole Thunderbolt Angle, wonderful.
Yep.
Wasn't Arn Anderson and Matt Bourne a tag team before this? Yes. They were.
Yep.
In the Mid-Atlantic area. Turbo Ted is with us. It's good to see you back with us, Turbo. Jeffrey is with us as well. Good evening. Well, good evening to you. Michael Barr, good evening from Southeast Alabama. Tim LaFontaine. I love that name. I think I probably could. I'm not for sure that's that. But good evening, gentlemen. How are you doing tonight? We are doing tremendous. Kevin Penley said, can't remember WWF was on 17 about 10 a.m. on Saturdays. Well, no, they were actually on the 6:05 time slot. WWF was. So I don't know that they were on Saturday mornings after that because, Jim Crockett paid $1 million to be on that time slot. He gave Vince McMahon $1 million. The WWF with Vince McMahon commentating was not a good show. No, it wasn't. It was pretty bad. It was.
Well, they kind of treated it as a secondary show too, which didn't help their case.
No, it did. Kevin Penley said Vince did his Howard Cosell.
Very well done as well.
I'd rather had Howard, and I didn't like Howard at all.
Alton Jackson said, I watched a little World Championship Wrestling, but I grew up watching Georgia Championship Wrestling. It was basically the same, but better.
Yeah.
That Georgia Championship Wrestling was a great. We were there for almost 11 years.
Honestly, the one, if those who were watching Georgia Championship Wrestling, when the name changed, it was kind of like, look, we brought you to the dance. Now you're turning on us. You're leaving us to go somewhere else. It was really not a good mood, I don't think.
Tim said Ole and Gene Tuff is $2 steaks.
Yeah.
I was going to make a joke there, but I thought, well, I make a joke, somebody's going to get upset, so I won't make that joke. Kevin Penley said Les Thatcher was good on Georgia TV as well. Yes, he was. Les was always good. There was only one Gordon. He could not be replaced. I agree with you there. Gordon was very good at what he did. Daniel Lang said, anybody know what happened with the merger? Championship Wrestling from Georgia announced with the Crockett's and Jerry Jarrett in October 1984. Well, I can tell you, neither one of them could get along. I mean, that's just the truth of it. You couldn't put – that's the reason Vince McMahon knew he could defeat the NWA because they couldn't work together. I mean, am I right or wrong, guys?
No, that's the truth.
Exactly right. And the one that ended up winning in that was Jimmy Crockett.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jimmy Crockett won that whole deal. Kevin asked,
he had the talent and he had the right idea because Mid-Atlantic Wrestling and Georgia Championship Wrestling were almost identical. You could watch one show and they could be interchanged easily. I mean, a lot of the talent was the same. Georgia Championship Wrestling, they recognized the World Tag Team Champions from there and the U.S. Champion from there. So, like I said, it was almost interchangeable. It was a perfect fit for Jim Crockett Promotions to come to Georgia. It really was.
It was. Mike Shaver said Nikita was a great heel babyface. Who brought Nikita into wrestling? Does anyone know?
My understanding was Ric Flair helped get him in, and Stan Lane may be the one that trained him. At least that's what I remember.
He was some type of knew the Road Warriors as well, but I don't know if they helped him get in or not. I think he just grew up with one of them. Michael Barr asked, when did Georgia Championship Wrestling go over to World Championship? Georgia Championship Wrestling go over to World Championship Wrestling? It was in 1982, wasn't it?
I believe it was right, because I watched that show not too terribly long ago where Gordon was saying, next week we're going to have a brand new name right here. Just tune in until next Saturday at 6:05, and they would announce the new name. Yeah,
because so it was done by Georgia Championship Wrestling Incorporated. Jim Barnett was the owner at the time when that was done, because they were going up to West Virginia, Ohio, and Maryland, and all those places. Kevin, you asked how did TBS get the WCWNA back from Vince? They paid him $1 million. Vince I guess he was just doing the first WrestleMania, and I guess he needed the money, and so he took the $1 million from the NWA. It was from the National Wrestling Alliance.
And World Championship Wrestling was actually that name of that show.
Yes. Kevin asked, and does Vince own it now? I believe he owns Georgia Championship Wrestling Incorporated, yes. But I don't think he owned World Championship Wrestling, because I believe TBS actually owned that name. I'm not for sure it was owned.
I think he bought that too, because he uses that name liberally with all the stuff on the network.
Let's see. Let me go make sure. Have you guys seen Boogie's son doing the indie circuit? No, Jack.
No, would love to.
I think he's talking about Gary Valiant.
Is he talking about Gary Valiant? All right. Well,
I haven't heard of any other. So.
All right. So we don't know about that. So you're talking about the Boogie Woogie boy, Gary Valiant. That's not his son. That's not Jimmy Valiant's son.
He got the blessing from Jimmy, but not his son.
Michael Barr said Shane McMahon on Sunday night with WCW Sunday Night Beach Brawl. Shane came on W and said that he had bought the WCW. That was a great episode, by the way.
It was.
It really was.
It was awesome. It was a good night.
Was that at Beach Brawl? Yeah, I guess it was.
It was in Panama City, right?
Yeah. I was thinking it was Nitro that he did it on. Yeah, it was on Nitro.
The next night. They had dual shows.
They still had both shows on that night, and then at the very end, they did a simulcast between both shows.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good thing, and Dennis Cook, woo, mercy daddy, Jumbo from Info, just saw a live interview with Jimmy today, where he explained how they worked the program with #1 Paul Jones. Took Jimmy being out of sight for 6 months to bring him back.
I remember that.
Right. That was a good.
Where they found him on the streets. That was good.
A lot of people, rest in peace to Animal of Road Warriors, and we want to do that as well. Jeffrey said, interviews when scripted, it comes from the lips, but given an ideal bullet point, it comes from the heart. That's the difference.
Yeah, exactly, Jeffrey.
Yes. What did you? Richard Hood said Dusty could put people in the seats.
Talk them in the seats.
Michael said, good invitation of Dusty there, Brent. Thank you so much. I love doing my Dusty Rhodes. Baby. Mickey Mayfield, was Baby Doll saying he was married at this time, or was it later? It was later.
Later, yeah.
I believe that might have been the downfall of poor old Sam Houston. And for some reason, they just got mad at that. I don't know why they got mad at it, but they did. And they send them to Kansas City. That must have been, we went there too, so we must have been in the hot seat as well. Mike Schaefer said Michael Hayes could out-talk most.
Yep.
Yeah, he was good. I always loved his interviews. Rick Brooks said saw every GCW show that came to Cincinnati for many years, starting in 1982. Victor Nash said, hello, guys. I'm still shocked and heartbroken over the loss of Animal. And we all are. David Bryce said, grew up watching Harry Thornton. Chattanooga.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Love old Harry Thornton. Harry Thornton had the #1 rated morning show in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
History.
Who was the lady that
Judy Corn? There was a couple of them, but Judy Corn was the one that I remember.
I remember Harry Thornton getting so mad, he'd leave when she'd talk about wrestling. She'd say something, well, that wrestling ain't worth nothing anyway. And he'd get mad and he'd storm out of it, which I think was all the work to get people to talk about it. But it was superb. Did you watch the morning show, Harry Thornton's morning show, Jack?
Yep, sure did.
I loved it. I loved every moment. Mickey Mayfield said Jimmy Valiant is still wrestling. Amazing. He can still do it, baby. Jimmy Valiant, the boogie woogie man. Rob said he never could understand Thunderbolt Patterson. Thunderbolt was over in Georgia. Now,
huge.
and in the Atlantic and in Australia. Almost every place he went. Yeah.
Bill Dudley said Thunderbolt Patterson was over so big in Australia. He was the hottest thing for a long time in Australia. Anywhere he went, he just had the ability to connect.
Yeah.
He just had that ability. And he, to me, was – I watched his matches. I always thought his matches were good. I thought they were solid. And I saw Ole Anderson and Thunderbolt Patterson sell out so many buildings. I saw Thunderbolt Patterson and King Kong Mosca sell out so many buildings. I saw Thunderbolt Patterson and Dick Slater. So many people that Thunderbolt would sell out buildings. And then before I even knew Thunderbolt Patterson, he was doing that way before I can remember those matches. So Richard Hood said the Boogie Woogie Man, the boy from New York City.
Yeah.
I thought Thunderbolt was better as a heel. I don't know if I ever saw Thunderbolt as a heel.
I saw him. Okay, but I like him better the way we saw him. There's a match on there with Thunderbolt Patterson against Dusty Rhodes from Florida. It's a must-see. Don Carson and Jimmy Golden are also involved in it. It is awesome. Check it out. Look it up on YouTube. Dusty Rhodes against Thunderbolt Patterson. It is just beautiful. Beautiful. It's for the Southern title. Thunderbolt wins the belt. It's wonderful.
Well, Jeffrey has took over the comical stylings of Retro Rob tonight. Okay. So we'll need to do it. He said the name Arn is translated from Greek, meaning Marty Lundy. Retro, I'm sorry, you come up next. He overdone you on this one, Retro, but he asked, did Jimmy Valiant ever work with Adrian Street anywhere? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's awesome. Right before all this, Jimmy Valiant, Adrian Street in the Mid-Atlantic. It's some great stuff. There's one thing where Jimmy's out there dancing around Adrian. Adrian knocks him out with a loaded glove, and they paint his face. Beautiful.
Good stuff. By the way, Kevin Penley wanted me to tell you, Rodney, I'm full.
Are you full? Are you full?
Good stuff.
I will whoop everything you got between two shoes. I love it.
Yep. Thunderbolt was the greatest.
It was great. And he would pause because it's going to say a bad word. That's the reason it's paused. And that's just, yeah.
And
I wish I could say what I want to.
Ole was one of the best heels. Yes. He was. And one of these Monday nights of the wrestling conversation, I'd like to look at, people talk about Georgia Championship Wrestling. I'd like to take a 1970 to 1984. What was the top 10 of the most popular wrestlers, the most hated wrestlers during that time period? That would be very interesting to what people would believe that watched Georgia Championship Wrestling, because you got to watch it for the majority of the time on cable television. So almost everybody watched Georgia Championship Wrestling. It was probably one of the most successful shows at the time on cable television.
It was number one for years on cable.
All right, let's see. The Four Horsemen was built on the back of Thunderbolt Patterson. Thunderbolt was tremendous. Richard Hood said Pistol Pez, one of my favorite wrestlers. He could talk and work, and was a great guy.
I like Sheska. I like Sheska Watley. He was awesome. Look at that top hat and that tuxedo and the bow tie. He was with Paul Jones at that time, wasn't he? I believe he was.
I think he was, yeah. Glenn Allen Shelton said, I think Ric Flair's daughter, I forgot his daughter's name. What's his daughter's name? Ric Flair's daughter's name?
Charlotte.
Charlotte Flair. Yeah, I think she should do that too. Woo! It's time to go.
It seems like she did. I remember her saying that a few times, but that's been years when she first started.
Rick Brooks said Ivan Koloff was a fantastic heel, but super nice out of the ring, and one of the few guys that didn't talk Russian while he was. He didn't live that. Right. He didn't live that in the dressing room. Some of them did. So
he was just red from Canada once the the curtains closed.
Always good though. Ivan was believable.
Yep.
That was. There's no doubt he was one of the most believable wrestlers out there. Let me see. Let me make sure I ain't missing somebody. Let's see. Do you remember the match when Animal Power slammed the guy off the second rope back in 1985? The show opened with Nikita Koloff attacking and stripping Flair. Yes. That was right after. Was that right after Magnum TA got hurt? They had that car accident?
With Nikita, I think it was when he turned. It was.
I believe so.
Or did they work against each other before Magnum TA got hurt? We'll have to look that up.
Nikita's turn did not come though until after, I think, because Nikita and Magnum TA did the best of 7 series for the U.S. title, which I'm sure they drew that. I bet it drew all over.
Yeah.
I was born and raised in Atlanta, and every Saturday night I watched Georgia Championship Wrestling with Gordon Stone.
Yeah.
In Georgia at the Varsity Club, they had like they used to have places where you could go and they had TV rooms in there, and you could go and they had a Georgia Championship Wrestling rooms, and both rooms would be packed during the 6:05 to 8:05. You couldn't get in there for people watching Georgia Championship Wrestling.
We were going and that was her main thing. We were going to go to the Varsity. We're going to get us a hamburger and French fries, and we're going to go into the room and sit down. Well, we couldn't. We had to sit outside and watch it through the window.
Yeah, it was packed. I'll never forget that. Bishop Michael Nesby said, "I hated the name change."
I'm with you, Bishop, because to me, it was an insult to the people of Georgia, in my opinion. It was an insult. Georgia, the people of Georgia deserve their own show. They deserve their own show, not having a bicycle show from World Championship Wrestling out of Atlanta. All the rest of the markets deserve their own shows as well.
Bishop said also, I'd love to hear Gordon sign off at the end of the show. So long from the peach state of Georgia. Yeah, that was good. Richard Hood said the Road Warriors got Nikita into wrestling. I thought they had something to do with it. I wasn't.
Yeah, I think they got him in, but my understanding was that Stan Lane was one who trained with him
to make sure that he knew what he was doing. All right, guys, we're running out of time. What is? Let's see. Let's get David Bryce. He said, got to see Pistol Pez before he passed away. A great guy. Yeah, Pistol Pez was. What is y'all's take on this show, April 6, 1985? What's your comments on it, Jack?
I thought it was great. I thought it shows the difference. If you go watch this, you won't want to go watch Raw because it's two completely separate animals. This showed you how to build wrestlers, showed you how to build characters, showed you how to get them over and make you believe. And every town that they advertise in this show, you want to go buy a ticket at every show, and that don't happen anymore. Great stuff. On a scale of 1 to 5, a 7.5.
I'll give it a 10. All right, Rodney.
To me, I think the best thing they did is not to feature anybody that had already been there. Everybody on the show was new. Tommy Rich was off of there. Ronnie Garvin. Right. All the rest they featured all the new stars that they were bringing in. I thought was important, but also mentioned them. They mentioned them later. They mentioned later in the show that they would be back. So it gave an opportunity for people to see these new tremendous stars that they had not seen, some not in a while. Dusty had been there for years. Thunderbolt and Ole and all them. The main show, the story of this show was Ole and Ole Anderson. That was the story of this show and Thunderbolt Patterson. That was the deal. And you're right, Jack. I mean, think about this. No script. They came from the heart. They didn't need anybody telling them word for word. And I can tell you right now, Ric Flair is 3 times a champion of Drew McIntyre. who could never sell a ticket with an interview in his life, not if they ripped 500 words and taught him every word night after night after night. He's not in the same class as the Nature Boy. Woo!
Woo! All right, with that, folks, if you're watching this on YouTube, give us that big thumbs up and subscribe to the page. And if you are watching on Facebook, like and share the page. And this was our look.
Thank you, Michael. You caught it. Thank you.
That is our look at NWA World Championship Wrestling from April 6, 1985. We want to thank you for being a part of it and for your comments and everything that you participated with us. We do appreciate it, and we thank you so much. And until the next time, on behalf of Jack Lord and Rodney West, I'm Brett West, and we'll see you on the next Pro Wrestling Inside and Out Live.